Hey guys, you're in for a treat today. Dr. Stu Bittman and I are sitting down. We're talking all things life and pursuit of happiness in this time of great challenge and chaos. And I love it because he threw me off from the step even before we hit record. I said, so the name of the podcast is If They Knew, based on the saying, if they knew what we knew, they would do what we do. And he said, I kind of want to take it a different route if you're up for that. And I was, and he's going to highlight a quote. It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. So as you jump in this space with us and we open up our hearts and we open up the idea of this infinite power and wisdom inside of us, maybe pause to look at the truths or non-truths or habits or old, stuck, limited thinking and behaviors that are maybe learned from our childhood or learned from our parents or grandparents or different things and attachments that maybe don't serve us anymore. So I have to give a shout out to Dr. Stu Bittman from taking the concept of this if they knew and opening a whole new perspective to it. The best we can do is better. He said, you can quote me on that one. The best we can do is better. It's that big heart of why I love this man so much, and I know you will too. So let's expect miracles out of this episode of If They Knew, featuring Dr. Stu Bittman. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. I am so grateful, honored, and really giddy inner child excited to host our very special guest today, Dr. Stu Bittman, who I met a few years ago and who joined us here in Wichita for the Big Idea last year and was a crowd favorite, maybe the crowd favorite, actually. And so I'm just, like I said, eager to jump into this conversation with him today. Welcome to If They Knew, Dr. Stu Bittman. Ha! This is where the round of applause
Hello,
goes off.
hello.
Dr. Stu, for those of you that don't know you, you want to give us your little rundown of who you are, where in the world you are, and what in the world you're up to.
Okay, as you get older, that takes longer and longer to do. Anyway, let's see. I'm I'm a hippie, deadhead, earth child, philosopher, lover, chiropractor. It's a lot of labels I've just thrown on myself, but I am a professional retiree. I retired from chiropractic practice about 11 years ago, and I retired from interfaith ministry last year. I think it was last year. It's one big time warp for me lately this year. But so right now I'm doing a podcast and writing and doing some coaching, life coaching mostly, and hoping to be able to travel again because that's one of my main things is doing workshops around the world. So,
and what type of workshops do you
there,
specialize in? What's
the main one's called Chiropractic from the Heart, because most of my market is in chiropractic, but it's for everybody to find their heart. I think this is going to lead into our conversation, but I believe the world has been heading headwards for many, many, many generations. And I believe that has a direct effect on what's going on now. So, I'm one of those people who still see hope in people finding their hearts and getting reconnected to the beautiful perfection and harmony that already exists, until we screw it up. That's essentially
I think
mission.
within the first few seconds, they get a feeling for who you are, and I'm rekindled to what I guess drew me to you in the first place, which is holding the ground for the heart. And I think especially in my professional training, you have been a standout as a male facilitator, where it's all about heart and not head and force and these things. And as challenging as 2020 is for me, I believe it is this return to the heart. It is the return to healing and nurturing and a more gentle flow. And why I've invited people to share in a conversation like this is all these different trainings, all these different conversations, I hear if they knew what we knew, they would do what we do. And as I sent that premise to you, and we just barely talked before we hit record, and I said, hey, what questions do you have as we jump into a premise like this? You had a quote, and I am asking different people to jump in here with me and say, what's the one thing you think if people knew it would change the game? And your response, or your idea around that is what?
Well, the quote is from Mark Twain, who said, "It's not what we don't know that gets us in trouble, it's what we know for sure that just ain't so." That's really been the theme of my life and my work. And again, what that means is we know all kinds of things for sure that we're convinced about that are just not so, even though we know things like, it's all one. And I'm sorry, the sun will move in a second. It's not my inner glow that's coming out here. Um, or maybe it is. I don't
I was going to
know.
say, I actually think.
So for instance, I mean, I know that I am more than enough. I know that I have an intelligence within me that does 600 octillion things every second. I know that when I cut myself, I don't really have to study a lot of books to heal that. I know that beyond that, this intelligence within me isn't just the greatest doctor in the universe and specialize in me. It guides me. It loves me. It
Mm,
guides my every choice. It's an inner guidance system and wisdom. I know all these things, but it's so easy for me to forget all that as soon as I get afraid about something or I buy into something the world has conjured up. So that's the work. I mean, our brains are subject to all kinds of influences, and most of those are minimizing, shrinking, separating. Because that's what we do when we're afraid. Our heart never does anything. Our heart is always, when we learn to open it, it's always open. It's always spacious. It can always
yeah.
hold all of this
Mm,
stuff and still allow us to remember what we really know and what we really would like to know that would help us. So for me, there's a big gap between knowing and actually doing, or knowing and living according to what we know, and that's the work for all of us. So, I guess
when
I guess the us and they part is a little
mm,
is a little hard for me too, because as soon as we start sort of blaming it on they, it takes the responsibility away from the fact that we need to do this, and we're the only ones who have any control over what we do. And we have no control over what anybody else does, which is really, really frustrating. I know, especially this year. But
well, and so the work is amplified this year, but when did this work begin in your life? When did you, because as you kind of mentioned, that intelligence inside of you, that, intuitive trust that it knows how to heal and guide and love, when did that really begin in your life?
probably when I was born, or
Mm,
before, but consciously.
yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Weirdly, it happened in a chiropractic seminar when I was listening to it was probably the first talk I ever heard on quantum physics. And I'm not
Mm,
going to get into it, but what happened at this talk was, and it was a very dry talk, but all of a sudden I'm in the front row crying hysterically, and I'm sure the speaker is still talking about this with his friends.
mm,
Like, why is this guy crying? But what happened was, it's like everything that I knew for sure that just wasn't so, just sort of just dropped away, and I felt like I had no
mm.
foundation. It was a very intense moment, and I'm sorry if I misled the poor guy into thinking he had upset me. No, it was an incredible moment, and it created such a space, or a hole, as I call it,
Mhm.
that I spent, every day since then filling that hole with more of what I knew that was true.
Right.
Yeah. So
So a
so that was
deeper
20.
understanding.
That was 30 years ago. So it's a
Yeah.
process for
And
sure.
an infinite process, I would gather, but not one that I think we arrive at, certainly not in this layer of existence, or at least that's my perception at
It's
this time. So when you talk about the work, when you talk about, I think we all have a series of aha moments, which it sounds like that was one of those where, like you said, your heart opens, the game, your perception of work of life and living it changes and opens. What are three ways that you've engaged in chasing understanding or keeping your heart open? Like you said, it's very easy with fear or separation or to get into that shrinking mentality or shrinking emotional capacity. How do you open up? What are three ways that you could reach out to humanity and say, here's some tools that help, face that?
Well, I have about 3 million, but maybe I can keep them in three general categories. I guess the phases for me, first of all, were to do some kind of inner work, to do some kind of meditation or prayer or just introspection or it, just to shift my identity a little bit, my framework, my perspective from out there to in here, and to start internalizing. Because this is an old spiritual saying, it's never about what it's about. So when I get triggered by something on the outside, my brain will tell me it's their fault or they should be doing something or shouldn't be doing something. But it's always my filters, my perspective, I'm getting triggered because of something within me. So I'm not saying,
Yeah.
go within so you can start blaming yourself for everybody. But until I take responsibility for my responses, I can't change it. I'm not even aware of these things that are triggering me that are not true, but I'm obviously buying into them. So, God, there's so many things that come under this category. But, let me say this. I used to tell patients in chiropractic, and I'm sorry, I stumble over that word patient still, but
I,
still hate it. But you guys are not patients, you're people.
can I ask? Can I ask why? Can I ask why? Right there.
Because
Can I pause you right there? Because I think that's
uh,
important. Why do you hate
because it puts the person immediately in some sort of subservient or less than or passive. The word means victim in Latin, so I hate it. Just though, and they're not victims; they're co-creators in their life, and what we're helping just to open them up. So it doesn't describe the chiropractic relationship with people, I think.
that?
So anyway, where were we? Where were we before I
I'm so
stumbled on
sorry.
that?
We
No,
were
no, no,
we were
it's good.
talking about inner work. Yes, yes, yeah. But I
Oh,
feel like that's a game changer for everyone
it is.
involved. So
So
thank
I
you.
told, so just as you said, it was a lifelong or an infinite work to find your heart. I would tell people that most of us are walking around with layers of this stuff, layers of what we call interference in chiropractic, layers of things that are keeping us from our heart, really, walls we've built around our heart. So instead of making the goal like tearing down every wall, maybe just knowing that each wall, every time and I won't even call it breaking because that's violent, every time we sort of integrate or transform or work through, or however you want to put it, one of these layers, there's tremendous benefits and tremendous fruit, and every day becomes a little more joyous and a little more free. So it's not like, I'm sorry, it's a cliche, but it's not about the destination because, yeah, I don't even know what the destination is. I think we'll still be here in these earth suits. I think we'll still be here subject to fears. I think the best we can do is better.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I love
or more whole. Okay. So I just came up with that one in that very
I
moment.
love that. I love right that one.
The bet you can
And
quote me
it's
on
so
that.
it's uh-huh, I got you. And it's especially in a time of now where I feel like everyone wants to leap 10 steps forward. It is the one step. So I love that. The best we can do is better.
is better. And the best we could do usually is the next step, because the view changes with every step. We can't possibly even know how to get to the final step until we've taken the ones before. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of hiking this year. Thank you. And that might be number two, by the way.
Here we go.
Turn off your
Okay.
it's a bad time to bring this up, but less social media, maybe
No, yeah.
less news, less outer directed stuff, especially fearful stuff, and maybe, besides more introspection and inner work, get out in nature, get out where it's already harmony and ease. I mean, it's been such an incredible gift to me to actually observe. 99.99% of the universe is just engaged in perfect balance and harmony even now. I can't tell that
Yeah.
when I'm looking at Facebook. When I'm looking at the stuff that I get steeped in, it just feeds all the stuff I know for sure that just ain't so. So get out there, even if it's 20 minutes a day, and sit in the dirt and look at the worms. That's what my mentor used to have us do. Just find a 5 by 5 plot of land, sit there for a few hours, and you just won't believe how much life and how much oneness and how much of the web of life you'll feel. And I think we all need to get back to that a little bit. Um, anyway,
What
and
do you what do
three.
you think that Oh yes, go.
No. I didn't even know what three was yet. So you should ask me this question.
Well, that return to oneness, what is that gift into someone's matrix? What do you think that restores when you do take time to return to oneness?
That we're not just visitors here, and worse yet, victims of everything that comes down the pike in this universe. That we're part of it. That we were designed to be part of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
B.J. Palmer, who was the developer of chiropractic, said we are at home in the world, and the world is our home. I can't think of a more important idea than that right now. I think
Mhm.
automatically, if we got that, we know we were a little bigger, a little smarter, a little more powerful than we tend to think. And maybe that's the one thing we know for sure that just ain't so. That is most damaging. That we're weak, deficient, lacking. Um, yeah, and this is certainly playing out
That's
now.
it.
Yeah.
And what gains in individuals believing there, it's, I mean, that's Marianne Williamson's quote. It's, our light, not our dark, is our greatest fear. What gain is out there to keep us feeling small? What do you think that's calculated? Do you think it's what do you think that is?
Are you trying to get me labeled as a conspiracy theorist?
Not at all. Not
I
at
put
all.
a thing.
I'm genuinely curious because it's, I mean, obviously where I feel very, very similar, where we do know this powerful beyond measure idea, and yet that feels like, with doing masks and distancing and no gatherings, and everything feels separate and fearful and diminished. What do you think that is at play right now?
I think it's just the ultimate, or maybe not the ultimate, but hopefully the ultimate manifestation of the trajectory we've been on for a long time. It's sort of not surprising,
Yeah.
and it's really hard for me to believe it's not calculated. I mean, it certainly helps sell things.
A lot of things. Yes.
I mean, just about everything that
Yep.
that is being bought in large amounts right now. You certainly can see how the situation benefits that. And again, the lead up to the situation. I mean, isn't it convenient that we all had Netflix and everything, and all these, online shopping and all this? It's so easy to stay home now. So a lot of people are even happy about it. It's great. Let's stay home. Uh,
Ugh.
so as I put on Facebook, I don't believe thinking that we have an immune system that has evolved for millions of years is a conspiracy theory.
No.
I don't think that the world is one, and that we're at home in the world, and the world is our home, is a conspiracy theory. I think there's been a bunch of conspiracy theories that we bought into that are not true. So like we're weak, that we're deficient, that we um, and again, it gets a little frustrating for those of us who know what we know. But
Right.
I would call us right back to the idea that there's a bunch of stuff in every one of our consciousnesses. Not sure the plural of that word. We could all do a lot of work on our own consciousness. Let me put it that way, and I don't have to use the plural of the word, and to transform some of these things we know that just ain't so.
And I feel like what I'm seeing, because I do, there is that angst where it's like, God, how do you not see it? And like you said, this has been 20, 30 years for you. I know my first probably aha was close to 14 years ago. Um, and people I think are waking up, and I think there's topics on the table now that we've been waiting for. I think this is exactly actually what we probably called out for. And it is happening at a rapid pace, considering, where it's like we've had years to wake up and digest and sort through. And it's happening in days and weeks. And I think this is
Absolutely,
exactly what we've called out for.
I agree. I mean, I think we could have done it a different way,
Right,
but
right.
maybe not.
And
Maybe not. I mean, for years people have been saying it's going to take some major. So yes, I agree. I think it's been like we've been in the water being slowly heated over time, like the frog analogy. But it's getting
right.
so hot that we can't really ignore it anymore, and we are either going to have to hop out and head in a different direction, or frog legs
So
for
right there,
dinner.
maybe a third tool could come from that. If you're the frog in the water and it's hot, what advice do you give the frog? Right? What do you tell the people that it's time to make a shift? How do you go? What's the gap from knowing and doing? Right? Of getting the idea and applying it in real life. Is it breath? Is it what is it?
Well, let's see. It's I wish I knew, but
Ah.
I have some idea. Yeah. So I guess the main tool, moment to moment, I use is generally called an affirmation and a denial. So not a denial in the sense of, okay, so I have a thought, and I recognize that the thought is something I know for sure that just ain't so. Okay, some fear, something I'm entertaining, and so I have to question it. I have to realize that I'm giving the thought the only power that it has. That the only power it has is the power I'm giving it. So if I could just notice that, if I could just realize it, and I don't have to get down on myself for having the thought, because yeah, I mean we're all having we're all subject to the same influences. We were all brought up in the same world that's been working on us for a long time, that's been heating the
Yep.
water slowly. So when I realize the water's hot, let's just acknowledge that the water's hot, but I have a choice here. I could complain about the water being hot. I could blame myself for staying in the hot water, for getting myself in the same situation again. I could blame the whole world for heating up the water again. I could blame, how did I get back in this hot water again? I jumped out 5 seconds. I could do all of those things, or I could simply say, jump out again. And if I bring awareness enough to these kind of thoughts, sooner or later I won't jump back in, or I won't jump back in so easily, or if I do, it'll be a conscious choice. Like the hell with it, I'm going to jump in. Hot water is okay now and then. Whatever, I could be a little, this, even in doing this work, I could feel better about myself because I'm getting a little more discernment over my
Mhm.
next step. And my next step is going to be so much clearer if I don't base it on some thought that I don't even believe. It's just some story.
Mhm.
And it's like a lullaby now. It's so familiar and so comfortable that even though it's not true, it doesn't even get my attention. So I think the inner work and spending more time in nature will help this too. But the moment to moment
Yep.
work is just, as soon as I become aware I am entertaining a thought that I don't want to entertain. And it's not like I got to say cancel it or go away. It's just, hello, thank you for your input. Because a lot of times these fear thoughts have value. They're trying to keep me alive. They're trying to keep me, they're not bad. They're just not my highest.
Mhm.
So if I
Gosh, I
can
love
do that,
that.
then in the next moment, as soon as I have my attention back, which is really the key, and for me, really the key about meditation too, it's about learning to pay attention to where my attention is. Because if I'm asleep half the
Mhm.
time and I just go along and say, if I have 60,000 thoughts a day, as they say we have, and 59,986 are exactly the same as yesterday, my life's not going to be a lot different today than it was yesterday.
Mhm.
You can quote me on that one too, even though I
Yeah.
don't know what I said. But
Ah,
so once I have my attention, then I can direct my next thought to something that is true, that I am more than enough, that I am bigger than
mm,
this virus. I'm bigger than this mask. I'm bigger than this bullshit. I'm bigger than what they've told me. I'm bigger because I know in my heart there's something fishy going on here. Even if I bought into it for 5 months, it's kind of getting to the point where, ooh, maybe somebody does have
right.
some vested interest in keeping this going. I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe that's just me.
I think we've been compassionately doing due diligence to understand it, because that is, like we said, I love Jake Merrick had said, if you can't get out of it, get into it. And if I believe in divine timing and I believe that, there's blessings in this, then you want to be present in it. And we hit a point where it's like, okay, yeah, and enough, like, and I call BS. And so, one of my other questions I want to ask before we start to the wrap up is specifically to moms. So in my current practice, I serve a lot of families and a lot of moms coming in, and there's, do you school, do you homeschool, do you unschool, do you vaccinate, do you not vaccinate, do you mask, do you not mask, do you, like, how do you have conversations with your kids? It's really, we're raising a generation in the midst of a turning point in history, and we all know it. So if you could, because I know you just have the most beautiful heart, if you could give a word to the moms out there feeling all those feels, what advice would you give them about guiding their children through this time?
First of all, God bless you, and my heart goes out to you. I can't imagine the kind of choices you've made. I mean, I'm in a position of making some for my mom right now, but that's definitely a different energy. Um, everything I've said, you already know more than I do. uh, you,
Hmm.
and I see when I said the trajectory's been going on for generations. That's what I was thinking of: the way we birth babies, our education system, women. I'm sorry, in addition to being encouraging, I'm going to call to you because I really believe you need to lead this charge. You need to reclaim. You're the one who birthed this world, and please don't take back your power modeling men. You have everything so deeply ingrained in you. There's a lineage of warrior women that you can draw from. You you are you are this close to the heartbeat of this Mother Earth, and so this, and surround yourself with people who see that in you. Surround yourself with people who treat you like the goddess that you are, and
Mm.
get rid of the people who don't. I mean, please. I see myself getting letters. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
um,
Mm.
nowhere is this more important than in how you raise your child, because this is the most heartbreaking thing for me about all of this. I mean, it's heartbreaking for me that I have to um, affect choices directed to my mom's 89, her care based on, if I put her in the medical system, I'll never see her again, or I won't be able to visit her. That's, it's totally insane and unacceptable to me. But again, she's made choices her whole life, and I'm not about to change that or whatever. It's a different thing with how we raise our children, and I think that is really the fundamental change: how we birth children and how we raise children, and bringing them up in a separated, masked, with no non verbal communication. And this is the hot water that I think are going to wake us all up, but maybe starting with the moms. My wife has said for
Yeah.
years that women just need to withhold sex, and all the problems with the world would go away. So maybe there's another one for you. that's that's
Dr.
a
Susan
Hillary
Massey.
Bittman.
There you go. Well, and just on that note, it's the acknowledgement of that sacral chakra feminine energy. I think women need to embrace that power. And from the get-go, I started, part of why I asked that question is early on in March, April, I opened up a group of mothers here in Wichita, and I said there's this rage happening because we know that something's not right. And when women claim that rage and do something constructive with it, the real healing through humanity is, and I think that's happening right now. I think I'm one of many mothers I know that is doing more unschooling with our kids, and that'll shift generations. And so you literally change the trajectory of the future in those micro decisions within your family. So I think,
Absolutely.
thank you for your perspective on that. Is there anything else? If like we said before we hit record on this, I'm so grateful for technology, because there you are all the way across the country, and here I am in Kansas, and we can connect like this and capture a little time capsule conversation. Is there anything else as we finish recording and we send it through the vibration of the internet, and it goes where it's meant to go, and it lands in the hearts of the people that will listen with us? Is there anything else you want to say to them, or say to your future self, or say to wherever this little conversation goes in time?
Well, keep on keeping on. As I said before, the view changes with every step. So let's not get caught up in the belief that this will never change. Um, Even though we may have difficulty seeing how it might change, I am convinced that it's going to change one heart at a time, one mom at a time, one child at a time. So I think as we become more interdirected and maybe spend a little less energy and attention on what's going on outside in other people's opinions and perspectives, we'll be even more hopeful to continue this work. And I really believe we're at a critical time here, but I also believe every moment is a critical time, and it doesn't matter what's happened before. Let's start living according to what we know now that is true in our hearts, and do whatever it takes to do that, because not only will that keep us busy and keep us maybe a little more out of overwhelm and fear and worry about the future. I mean, obviously we're concerned about the future, but there's a difference between concern and worry. Worry paralyzes us now. Let's open our hearts out of concern, because that's the answer. That is the answer. And the best thing we can do is better.
I can't wait to come back and listen to this again. I've taken a whole sheet of stewisms. The best we can do is better. The acknowledgement of the difference between concern and worry. You've given so much value in here. And what I do know, because of having you last year at the Big Idea, is that people are going to want more of you. So can you share with anybody listening, where they can connect with you now and what projects you foresee in the future?
Wow. Well, I do a weekly podcast called Stew on This. It's available wherever podcasts are available. Let's see. Well, I'm working on my first virtual workshop, but I don't really have that together yet. It's going to be in November. And let's see, Bittman, Bittman, Bliss, BLISS.com. That's my website. I have a Bittman Bliss page on Facebook. It's my coaching page. And other than that, I'm on Facebook if you want to
Yeah, and if I have anything to
Go
say
ahead.
about it, you'll be in Wichita sooner rather than later for that breath work workshop that I know people have been craving here, and is like I said, the first my first interaction with you at the Artful Convention, where you we shared that breath work moment. And I don't know many people on the planet personally. I don't know anybody really that has just the most grounded, safe, peaceful connection to um, to yourself, to the universe, and allows others around you to jump into that space with you. You hold such a beautiful ground for humanity, and I'm really honored to host you and to get to know you better, and to be in the world, in the here and now with you, because you are so special. And I look very
Oh,
forward to our
thank you.
future adventures. So, um,
Me too. Me
sending
too.
sending big love out to California. And guys, we'll have lots of links for you to go check out this amazing man, and we'll keep you connected, because I just, like I said, I just know that we're not near done facilitating together. And in the next chapters that open, there will be much more to come. So we're going to sign off for now and connect you to
I can't
links for
wait.
Dr. Stu. But thank you for opening your heart and sharing this conversation with us today.
So now you see. Now you see why I love this man and why I was so eager to share his voice and his heart with all of you. It ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. Pause and let this be motivation and inspiration to take a look at the way you think, the way you move in the world, the way you choose to engage in all the things that are going on right now. And remember, the best that we can do is better. He dropped so many one-liners and opened so many doors that might give you a fresh look, a fresh take on life and on love, and those three little helpful hints of going inward and getting out in nature and taking a pause in affirmations and denials of things that maybe don't serve us anymore. There's so much good stuff in this episode, and do us a favor, send this on to somebody you think that might like it too. And just know that each and every episode, each and every conversation is made for you, right from my heart. And if there's anybody you want to hear from in particular, please give me a shout, and I would love to reach out to them and make that magic happen. And the best is yet to be, my friends. So big virtual hug. I love you. I appreciate you. I'll be seeing you soon. Blessings.